Hello everybody and welcome back to another ongoing episode of my RuneScape fact series. I love anything to do with Oldschool Runescape, and there's a ton of interesting Easter eggs, facts, or trivia questions that a lot of people don't know about. Honestly, with pretty much every update, there are interesting little tidbits of information put into the game. So today I'm going to be going over another 15 facts that you may not know about Oldschool Runescape. I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. Now, first up here is something that I think a lot of people may know about, but the main reason for that is it was at the top of Reddit for a couple of days. However, it still is a really interesting Easter egg, so I thought I'd throw it in here, although I'm probably messing up my video title already. Now, there is a workman in most of the major cities that hauls a bunch of rocks around or something. Now, this guy has a few messages that he shouts out, and one of them is, "How is it going, officers?" However, if you manage to kill all of the guards, at that exact moment, he will say, "Oh dear, they're all dead." Honestly, I don't think anybody knew about this until that Reddit post a couple of weeks ago, so I think this is a really interesting Easter egg. Now, for the most part, random events are kind of annoying and not really worth your time to do or enter them. Barring a few exceptions like the maze random and the genie event, and most people don't actually do the random events. However, there is another use for one of the random events that I never really thought of until recently. Now, for example, if you're out at Skeletal Wyverns, you're out doing a Slayer task, and you happen to get the Grave Digger random event, it can actually be worth your time to do it, or at least enter it. And the reason for that is there's actually a bank deposit box in the random event. So pretty much what that means is if you need to deposit some items, but you don't really want to leave where you are, you can take that random event, deposit any loot you have or anything that's clogging up your inventory, and then you can just exit through the portal and you'll end up right back where you were. Obviously, this is very situational, but something I never really thought of and definitely could be useful in a lot of different circumstances. Now, with the new holiday event coming out recently, there is a set of ghost robes that you can get for completing the event. However, there was actually an Easter egg with this event. If you use the spooky robe set on the ecto fungus, you will get the spookier robe set and it will dye its color more green. And this can even be done in free-to-play if you use it in the spot behind the shack in the Lumbered Swamp. Okay, next up here, number 4 is referring to the boat in the new Cabbage expansion. The boat is called Bodhi, and you know, I didn't really think about this at first. I thought maybe it was just a reference to Bodhi, the RuneScape content creator. However, apparently it was actually named after a British underwater research vessel that actually had its name determined by a public vote. And the name that they gave it was Bodhi McBoatface. Honestly, I think I must have just been living under a rock for this one. There's no way that this has not been memed a ton of times. Now, what I find really funny about this is something similar actually happened in the town I lived in. What the city council actually did is they allowed a group of kids to name some of the new street signs. So you'll be going down a section of the city and some of them will be like Dingle Bingle Way and just ridiculous names like that. I'm pretty sure they regretted that decision, but I do respect them for following through with it. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting that I didn't really think about too much is how multi-combat is determined. And what's kind of interesting is it's actually possible to attack someone from single-way combat and hit multiple players. What actually determines if you're able to attack someone is based on the zone that your opponent is currently in, which means that theoretically you could attack multiple people from a single-way combat zone as long as they are in the multi-combat zone. However, the opposite is also true. If you're in the single-way combat zone, even if your opponents are in multi, they can't all attack you at once. Something that really does make sense and should be this way, but I never really thought of before. Now, when I was working on one of my Ironmen, one thing I was trying to figure out is what is the closest teleport to a fairy ring. Everyone knows about the Slayer ring teleport, but that is a very high crafting level. However, one of the best teleports that is really close to a fairy ring that you can actually get at a fairly low level is the Salve Graveyard teleport. It only requires a magic level of 40 and the Arceus spellbook unlocked, which is fairly easy to get. This teleports you extremely close to a fairy ring. The only main drawback is the Arceus spellbook is not something that a lot of players want to keep on permanently. However, it can be worth it if you're on an Ironman account, and if you're on a main account, you could even consider buying the Salve Graveyard teleport tablets. Although kind of expensive if you are a fairly funded main, can save you a lot of time before you get 74 crafting or whatever. Now, one question that I don't think anyone ever asked, but I'm going to be giving you the answer anyway, is what is the greatest possible weight in Oldschool Runescape? Now, with the current items in game, the greatest weight is actually 1,000 18 kilos. Now the bulk of that weight is coming from the barrel of coal tar or the barrel of naphtha, which weigh 32 each, and you can have 28 in your inventory. That's already adding up to nearly 900 kilograms. And you also need to wear the heaviest armor, which is the golden helmet, the diving apparatus, a seal of passage, a barrel chest anchor, the granite body and legs, the skeletal gloves, the guardian boots, the granite ring, and that pretty much all adds up to 1022, which can actually be slightly higher with a few quest items. But yeah, there you go. Okay, next up here is a Easter egg to do with King Arthur. If you actually go ahead and purchase a poison chalice from Stankers, the coal truck driver, and you give it to him, he will start quoting an Indiana Jones movie. To be specific, he'll start quoting the Grail Knight from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. When you're in Lumbridge, you'll notice that there are a lot of ducklings running around the River Lum. However, if ducklings are following a duck and you proceed to go ahead and kill it, they're all going to exclaim "Eep" and swim across the river, most likely because you killed their mother. Well, that is a little bit dark. However, soon after, the ducklings will find a new mother, no problems at all, and they'll start following a new duck. However, you can repeat the process again. If you kill that duck as well, they'll be homeless for a second and then go find themselves a new mother. Now, there's actually an Easter egg with the Jar of Souls. If you take it to Lumbridge and use your jar on Adam, Adam will reach inside the Jar of Souls and pick one out and say, "Hey, I've been looking for one of these," which is clearly a reference to the common myth that gingers have no soul, which I'm not really sure where that came from. The first place I ever learned about it was South Park, but that may not be its initial source. Now, one interesting thing is the abbreviation DDS has been in the game for a long time and didn't always refer to the poisoned dragon dagger. What it actually refers to is Dragon Dagger Spec. However, for whatever reason, that got transferred over to the poisoned dragon dagger later, even though the acronym was initially applying to a regular dragon dagger with no poison. Now, another really interesting Easter egg is to do with the random events. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you get one while you're underwater, which isn't that likely to be honest, but if you do get one, they're actually going to be wearing a diving apparatus as well as a fishbowl helmet because, you know, they gotta breathe underwater. Just these little attention to details are really what makes this game awesome. Although I kind of always find it funny where they draw the line with realism in this game. Jagex seems to determine that breathing underwater is not realistic, however, being able to slam 20 sharks in a minute is realistic. I guess it's up to them though. Next up here, there's actually a bit of a hidden mechanic during the Death to the Dorgeshin quest. After you have started the quest, you actually have a much higher drop rate of ham robes from any of the methods of obtaining them. And as these robes actually do sell for a bit on the Grand Exchange, it could be kind of an interesting money-making method that's only really available when the quest is in progress, as the rate once again is much higher. Now, one of the most benign items in the entire game is a cabbage. Only healing 1 HP and being scattered around Gilnor makes it kind of unassuming. However, there's somewhat of an Easter egg in Draenor. There's actually a separate type of cabbage there called a Draenor cabbage. It is a completely different ID, will take up an entirely different bank stack in your bank, and on top of healing 1 HP, this type of cabbage will also boost your defense level by 1. And this is also available in free-to-play, which makes it kind of a rarity, as the only other item to boost your defense in free-to-play is a kebab, and only at a 4% chance. Now, it's not super likely that you'll need 1 extra defense for anything, but still an interesting item that a lot of people don't actually know about. And to finish it up here, I have an interesting tidbit on the light creature. If you don't know what the light creature is, it's that weird thing that carries you across the chasm in the Lumbridge Swamp. I think you first encounter it during the Tears of Guthix quest. Well, this is actually an old remnant of a race. Well, these light creatures were actually an old remnant of Guthix. The race had bodies as fragile as snowflakes, yet they built crystal cities and stood for 1,000 years. The creatures you see floating in the chasm are the last sorry remnants of that age. I kind of found this tidbit of lore kind of interesting because I didn't think they were creatures. Honestly, I didn't know what they were. I just kind of hoped they didn't drop me in the pit. Anyway guys, that is going to be it for today's video. If you have any other suggestions for Easter eggs, interesting tips, or anything else people may not know about this game, I would appreciate it if you left a comment down below. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you next time.